Welcome back to Killer Fun, where we explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week. I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And today we are talking about the woman in the house across the street from the girl in the window.
Oh my God, you said that. You said it, and you said it flawlessly. Here I was typing it into my phone, and all I'm thinking is, please Google finish this for me.
The name is too long.
The name is fabulous, though.
But it sets you up for exactly what you need to know.
Yeah, it's representative of the series, yeah?
Yes, it's ridiculous. It's funny. It's darkly comic. And people don't get dark comedy.
Oh, we have discussed this before.
We have. And I think that this is just a really good example of people want to get it. They think they're smart enough to get it.
You said it. That's the problem with satire.
Yeah.
True satire versus comedy.
Yes.
And then there's like those comedy satire mixes. So if you're not really savvy with the satire and you don't really get the dark comedy, well then the satire comedy mixes difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. People don't get it.
People don't get it.
Yeah. Let's talk about this cast.
Oh yes, let's do.
So Kristen Bell is Anna, not Anna.
Anna.
Not like Anna from the last show we covered, Inventing Anna. This is Anna.
Because my husband listened to the episode and he was like, I listened to your episode on Inventing Anna. And I was like, we did discuss that, didn't we? It was very funny.
Yes, but this is Anna. And we talked about her before. Veronica Mars.
Obviously.
And lots of other stuff. It's very fun.
By the way, I just finally finished The Good Place.
Oh, I enjoyed The Good Place.
It was a good show.
My husband didn't like it, so I watched it alone.
I loved it. It was so funny.
I thought it was really funny.
It was great. I highly recommend it.
It's a little more lightly humorous dark comedy.
Yeah,
it's still a dark comedy because it's about hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some heavy points there.
There are, but it found a way to be funny.
It was very fun. Oh, it was an absolute. I thought it was a riot.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's comedy at any level. Whether you want it to be just a light comedy, a dark comedy, satire, like you pick your poison. The writers were geniuses.
If you can see all of it, then you get a whole lot more laughs out of it. But if you can only see it for one, you get some laughs out of it.
I just had a thought. Is there a Hall of Fame for writers?
Ooh, I don't know.
There ought to be.
Yeah.
Because the writers were freaking geniuses.
I mean, Tom Riley is Neil. And this is not his first unusual dark show. He was Leonardo in Da Vinci's Demons and Augie in the Victorian superhero adjacent show The Nevers on HBO, which I watched one of and couldn't get into it. But yeah, I wanted to like it.
Yeah.
Very much, but I did not. Cameron Britton is Buell. And I loved him as Hazel in the Umbrella Academy. And he was Will in the Hulu series Shrill, which was very fun. He's also been in Manhunt and Mindhunter and more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's been in like serious sorts of things, but lots of funny things too, which is enjoyable. Sarah Leah Yett is Emma. And she was in The Flight Attendant, which we have talked about before. And she was also in Don't Look Up.
Oh, yeah.
And then Brenda Koo is Nosy Neighbor Carol. And this is probably her first big reoccurring role. But she's had lots of small parts in TV and film dating back to 2010. So she's kind of a familiar face.
That's what I was about to say.
But it's hard to kind of place her.
Yes.
Because they've been small roles, but she looks real familiar.
She does. She has one of those familiar faces.
That's right. She hasn't eaten us yet. So
yeah.
Great.
And you know what? She is very friendly looking.
Yes.
And yet still.
and yet still not
so very nice.
Not in this show.
As the girl across the street puts it, she's not very nice.
Yes.
No, she's not.
I knew I liked you.
Yeah.
Michael Ealy is Doug, and he's known for Barbershop. He was also in Almost Human as a robot police officer, which I think I've watched all of that show. It was only on for a season, and it was actually fun. Like 2014. It's been a while.
Okay.
But I think I watched that show, and I think I enjoyed it.
I'm
and
gonna
I
have to
didn't realize
revisit.
he
It
was
sounds
in it.
interesting.
Yeah. He was in The Good Wife, The Following, which we've talked about before.
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
lots
I
more.
love The Following. Yes, that's kind of where I would know it from.
Yes. All right. Recap.
Do it. Good luck.
So Anna makes chicken noodle casserole relentlessly and drinks colossal glasses of wine.
That's what got me in the trailer.
I know.
She poured a whole glass of wine into him.
You're like, I have to see what Kristen Bell is doing
so
with this
funny.
gigantic glass of wine.
Yeah.
We'll soon learn that she's grieving deeply and doesn't have good support. She hallucinates her murdered daughter, but a small part of her is trying to move past this grief when a cute new neighbor with a daughter moves in. Her career is stalled, and she fills the time where she is unable to paint because she's an artist, trying to understand the bumps in the night, the idea that her ex has moved on, and murder, maybe, of the neighbor's girlfriend. So, like I said, people don't get dark comedy.
Were the reviews atrocious?
I mean, they either really loved it or really hated it.
Okay, my husband hated it.
Oh, did he?
He tried.
Oh, okay. Well, I
And
appreciate him trying.
he's fallen off already.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, because the critics only liked it 54%, and the audience only liked it 47%.
Ooh, man.
Like, yeah, not.
Come on. The satirical point.
They just.
I know that I'm going into the satire, which is a step beyond the dark comedy, but like the commentary on grief in
Yes.
our society is like really deep, y'all. It's really deep.
Yes.
And now I would notice that because that's kind of something I might be more attuned to.
Right.
I suppose.
I
So
agree.
maybe a lot of people wouldn't see the satire because I see the satire as punching up at our incompassion as a society.
Right.
But the dark comedy, I just wish our society got it better. Why?
And I
I
think it's maybe an empathy issue or an education issue, or I'm not exactly sure, but I think that there's a level of maybe a little bit of both of those that if they were increased a little bit, people might be able to appreciate this sort of writing more.
Yeah. Maybe a fear. People are afraid of death in like a righteous way, man.
Well, and they just want people to get over it.
Yeah, hence the grief thing because people don't like the death. They're like, oh, we know this happens, but it like happens, like over there, and they don't want to laugh at it up close.
John Doyle of Globe and Mail said the cast is uniformly good, which I totally agree. Megan Navarro of Bloody Disgusting. The series is far more digestible than its mouthful of a title, and the absurd satire builds to a hilarious punchline.
Oh, see, people.
So I'm like, oh, you get it.
Yeah.
Roxanne Santo of Little White Lies. This show is so concerned about trying to be something that it ends up being nothing. It is neither clever nor particularly captivating, which I don't agree with.
I don't agree with it at all.
Stephanie Morgan of Common Sense Media. While a worthy experiment, this genre-bending show isn't funny or suspenseful enough to keep viewers wanting to return for all 8 episodes. But they end every single episode on a cliffhanger, so I don't know what she's talking about.
I get it, though, because there is a cliffhanger at the end of episode 2 that I found to be like...
Yeah,
I don't know about that. Like that's a little far. I don't feel like you set up that. I feel like
the ridiculousness of it was what was fun.
Yeah, maybe that episode didn't drive me to that point yet. Maybe I wasn't ready for that. Maybe maybe that should have happened a little before and then given me a cliffhanger so I kind of knew. But because I couldn't binge it, I couldn't go on to the next episode at that moment.
Right.
So not only I had to stop
So,
it,
yeah.
but knowing that I had to stop it, that cliffhanger probably didn't hit as well. Now, if I had been in a position where I was like, I'm going to
just keep going.
keep going, I probably would have thought it was funny.
Yeah. Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's fair. User reviews said a parody that takes itself too seriously and can't decide whether it's satire or thriller, dark comedy or dramedy, but where it should follow somewhere between these. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's trying.
Fusion.
I don't know. I liked it enough to watch it all. It's under 4 hours. It's not a big time commitment.
I mean, it's the same as the Batman.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm going to tell you something about the Batman. That's not a spoiler, I promise.
Okay.
It was the best Batman movie I'd seen.
Really? Oh, good.
And I hate Batman.
So crimereads.com has maybe also doesn't quite get it. They don't get the deadpan dark comedy either.
Oh, man.
So, but they do have a good point that it's based on some things. So it's based on the girl on a train.
Yeah.
A Simple Favor. Then She Was Gone. The Girl in the Window. Hector DeJean said the set pieces have all come together to form their own subgenre, one without a commonly accepted name, although quote unquote women's psychological suspense or female psychological thrillers and domestic thrillers have all been tried out as handles. I'm like, okay, so you kind of have to have this frame of reference. You don't necessarily need to have seen these things, but you need to
have that mindset.
Understand their existence and where they are to understand what the show is making fun of.
Wow, I gotta sit with that because see, my husband hated it, and all of a sudden I'm like,
he doesn't have the same frame of reference.
He doesn't,
because he hasn't listened to 1,000 true crime podcasts and listened to.
He's also not a woman.
And he's not a woman.
He's definitely not a woman.
He doesn't understand the way that women relate to this material differently than men do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
I was like, So the jokes were doled out sparingly and often subtly, which...
Like, he doesn't think it's hysterical. Sorry. He doesn't think it's hysterical, and she pours the whole bottle of wine into a glass and then grabs a second bottle of wine.
Opens it.
And opens it.
Puts
and then
her phone on top so that she
doesn't spill it.
So she doesn't spill the entire bottle of wine.
Also, because she has nowhere else to put her phone because she has no pockets.
Right. That didn't even occur to me.
We just know this. We know where you're going to put your phone. I have put my phone on the top of a drink 1,000 times if I have like a plate of food and the phone goes on top. And yes, and the double duty is either it keeps it hot or cold or keeps it from spilling. But also, what are the chances I have pockets?
Not good. And am I going to shove it in my bra?
Okay.
I mean, maybe.
Right? I do that sometimes. Yeah, why
all
not?
the time. In the before times when we went out more. My phone was always in my bra. Yeah. I would literally pick like, where am I going and what am I doing? What bra am I going to wear? Which determines what clothes I'm going to wear, so that I could like shove my bra in there, or shove my phone in my bra properly.
Yeah, I totally get that. That is so funny.
Hector said, when it's funny, it's very funny. And there's the what the hell am I watching aspect of it, which I'm like, that is super fair.
That's great. I mean, I felt that, all of that.
Right, exactly. Well, and he says it's tricky to anticipate when the plot twist when one isn't sure if it's going to go in a silly or sinister direction.
Oh, that's so true.
And I'm like, you don't know what's coming. It's not fun. Isn't it so nice to not be able to predict what's coming next?
Thank you.
I mean...
Thank you.
For real. He said that they're a touch flat as characters is actually a benefit because it makes everybody seem suspicious. Which I'm like, ooh, yes.
That's true.
Exactly.
That helps with the whole we're not really sure thing.
Yep.
It was definitely experimental.
Yeah.
I do think it was experimental.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I've seen the whole thing.
You have. I'm like not.
Yeah.
I'm on
that's
episode
fine.
3.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we're only talking about the first 2 episodes today. So,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. But they kind of set it up at the end for maybe another season. Do we need another season? No.
Okay. All right.
Really, we don't.
I feel that.
But was it fun? Did I enjoy the long movie that this basically was? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It was fine.
Good deal.
Yeah. And in fact, Book and Film Globe actually asked that same thing. Would it have been better as a movie?
Oh, that's a good question. So my husband brought this very subject up.
Okay. Did he?
Oh, yeah. This
Really?
is his issue.
Okay. So Neil Pollack said, though every one of the 8 episodes contains one major laugh line and several smirk of recognition lines, too much of the material plays itself straight, or at least close to straight. It's absurd and satirical, but there's a lot of filler that would vanish in the 2-hour one-off parody movie that this material deserves. Which I'm like, okay, I enjoyed it for what it was, but that's fair. You could have made a movie of this, and it would have been tighter and maybe funnier.
Maybe funnier.
So what did your husband have to say about just that it was a movie?
Ironically, he felt it was more predictable.
Oh, really?
Now, I have to say that might be his career talking.
Right.
A little bit of career influence.
Yeah.
He's a filmmaker. Who
Right.
works in video. So I think that he comes to the table with an interesting thing because he often can't predict a thing. And me, I can predict everything. This time, I actually missed something
No.
that he predicted.
Okay.
And I didn't predict it as fast as he did.
Oh, okay.
But
Usually, because you're usually right on top of it.
I'm right on top of it, which is fine. It doesn't take away from it.
Right.
To me, it's still entertaining if it's entertaining.
Right.
So, but for him, sometimes the mystery is exactly what is entertaining. And so it took away from him.
Oh, okay.
For me, whether I can predict it or not, the movie is either entertaining or not.
Right.
Either way.
Right.
But for him, that was a big deal. And because of that, he predicted a certain amount of ridiculousness. And then he was like, I'm done.
Oh, okay.
So he wasn't there for the ridiculous,
Right.
but he also doesn't really like the dark comedy.
Right.
So I'll be more specific. He doesn't like the deadpan dark
Yeah.
comedy because he loves Bernie.
Yeah.
He loves certain movies that are like classic dark comedy, but those have a little bit more from the beginning that
Yeah,
are
a
just
little-
straight kind of
A little levity from the beginning.
right, or a
Yeah.
little bit more obvious from the beginning, whereas this is far more deadpan. And he's not a huge fan. Like, he's going to like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Drew Carey style.
Right.
Not John Anderson style, if
Okay.
that makes sense. For those of you who don't know, John Anderson is the original Whose Line Is It Anyway from the BBC,
British, yeah.
the British BBC. No, sorry, not BBC. I meant to say just British comedy, but I said
Right.
BBC, and that's a news station. Excuse me. But then, he loves the Drew Carey style.
Okay.
Right? Like, my favorite comedian on that show is Ryan Stiles. And his is
Yeah.
not. So,
Okay.
there
Right.
you go.
He's
So-
more of a Wayne Brady guy.
There you go.
Okay. Both great comedians.
Oh, amazing. But you can tell the comedy difference. And so
Right.
when you put it into then the show, he was like, a movie would have been better. I could have invested, I could have done the thing and then been done.
Yeah.
And for him, that would have been a better thing because it would have
okay.
moved faster.
Okay. Fine.
It is what it is.
It is.
Ryan Stiles rules.
Yes, he does. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Is It True? Psychology Break and Real Life right after this.
Very good. So here's how it works. Christy wrecks her search history. Hey, an essay. We promise it's nothing more nefarious than a podcast. To find out what's true, some of the psychological motivations behind the characters' actions, and real-life applications that relate to our topic. I have no idea what Christy decided to look up. Could be the same thing that captured my curiosity or something I never thought of.
Is it true?
All right, hit me.
You too can hog the wine by having just one glass.
Okay, I've seen these glasses because I've almost bought them as gifts for people. That's that mindset we're talking about, by the way.
Yeah.
Is that mindset of thinking that's funny and cute?
Yes, exactly. That her alcoholism is entertaining. It's
wine.
so dark.
Yeah. All I need is mascara, Jesus, coffee, and wine.
Yes, but there is glasses. You can buy them at VAT 19 and many other places. But the description at VAT 19 was pretty great. The giant wine glass is located somewhere on the classy continuum between a passed out drunk clutching the last sips of his bottle of Night Train and drinking straight from the bottle. And that's exactly where we like to be. It's classier than drinking straight from the bottle, but it's wine.
I get it. Okay.
It's so funny.
Here's the thing.
It's only like,
in the scene. Now, obviously, this is a complete shout out to the director, cinematographer.
Yeah.
Right.
Props
the DP,
people.
the props people, everybody. It didn't look that big until she finished the glass of wine.
Right.
Right? Like until...
Right.
It didn't really look that big.
And that's the thing. They don't look that big. So
I'm going to say that
the dimensions of it are 3 inches wide and 10 inches tall with 4 inches as a stem.
Okay. So
it does. It's like it almost looks like a normal bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Or normal bottle of wine. It almost looks like a normal glass.
It does. Okay. So here's the thing. Like, I want to believe this was all like practical effects, but the truth is it probably didn't look that big to me for reasons. I mean,
okay, so
it was a call out. I am not a drunk, okay? I'm just saying that but they got me.
When you have a glass like that, normally what you do is you fill it up
halfway.
or not even halfway.
Maybe
so that
not.
the water, it's wine.
Well, if you're Jesus.
What is with us tonight? Holy moly. If it gives your wine a chance to breathe.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
It's like a decanting, but I don't want to go through the trouble of pouring it into a decanter.
There
and then
you go.
All that, you put it in a bigger glass. But if your glass is big, then sometimes you can just pour the whole bottle in there. And there you go.
True. Because I think that was the thing. It was like, oh, look at her. She's going to go all the way to the top. And then she finished the bottle of wine, and that's where they got me. Because I was like, oh, look at that. That's funny. That was funny. It was funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a little funny.
I've done that on occasion only because I had an awkward amount left in the bottle.
Oh.
So I was pouring for several people. And I have these glasses that are vintage. So they're a certain style. But I poured and then there was this awkward amount left. So it was like, okay, pour. Oh, that was more than I thought, but it looked like an awkward amount. By the end of it, I was kind of towards the top. So it was like, you know what? You get what you get. It ain't classy around here today. Be done with it.
That's right.
If you think this was classy wine, you have misjudged me to begin with. So I put cheap wine in fancy glasses because I inherited them, not because I bought them. Okay, so it was an awkward thing, but in general, yes, a glass of wine should be But it was just funny. And then she grabbed the one scene she does this, and she grabs the full bottle of wine. And takes it with
right. Like she pours an entire bottle of wine into her glass, puts her phone on top, opens another bottle, and takes them both with her. I'm like, she's going to drink 2 glasses of wine.
Only Kristen Bell could have pulled that scene off way she pulled that scene off. I'm going to give props.
It was so good.
Kristen Bell. FX people, you all did great.
It's very, very good. Yep. So hallucinations of the dead, where people have conversations. Okay, again, I think this is a Western thing that we don't realize is super, super common.
Super common.
So Scientific American had an article about this whole thing. This is fascinating. One study out of the University of Göteborg, Goteborg, Göteborg. I don't know where that is. Göteborg. I don't know. I don't know where that is. Anyway, a study from there found that over 80% of elderly people experience hallucinations associated with their deceased partner 1 month after bereavement, as if their perception had yet to catch up with the knowledge of their beloved's passing. As a marker of how vivid such visions can seem, almost a third of the people reported that they spoke in response to their experiences. In other words, they weren't just peripheral illusions. They could evoke the very essence of the deceased. That 80% of elderly people who've been with a partner for decades could have conversations with their loved ones after they're gone is, astronomical. And people don't want to talk about it because it's icky or makes them seem insane, and that's just not true. It's just a way of coping with grief.
It is. Obviously it does depend on how we define a hallucination.
Yeah.
But, which I think I've said before on the podcast, but we like to move on.
Yeah.
It's not how it works.
No.
It's just not how it works.
It's really not.
We tend to think of hallucinations, and even if shows have like television shows have kind of depicted this in other ways shortly, but usually then the person talks to a therapist. In this show, she talks to a therapist, oh, I saw her again. Da, 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 da. And I feel like the therapist's response should be like, good.
Yeah. Well,
good for you.
It has been 3 years. So it's been a longer period of time than, but still, this is complicated grief.
Her hallucination was a little crazier because bananas, a little more bananas, because she
we'll get there.
Yeah, she did things that were a little bit more than just having a conversation. This wasn't like Dexter having a conversation with his sister.
Exactly.
Okay, this was a little bit more, but we don't acknowledge it. We're not.
Well, it's one of the most common reactions to loss, and one that we don't talk about and hasn't been studied very well. And that Carlos Suzuki, cross-cultural researcher at George Mason University, says that if you have a non-European cultural mindset, that this is much more acceptable, that it's much more normalized in non-European, non-American sorts of Western culture, that it's just kind of normal to hallucinate your loved one during this grieving period, and that it's accepted and normalized kind of makes it easier to get through your grief.
Yeah, we don't have a great tap on past.
No.
And how it informs our future.
Right.
In order to, beautify our present.
Right. Well, and to just acknowledge what an impact somebody had on your life. We're just supposed to get over it when they're gone.
No. And that's the thing about it. There's a big difference between grieving and then moving on with that person as a part of your life, just having been passed.
Yeah.
In death.
Yes.
And so we don't have a good term for that. We're grieve, and then that's a process, and then you're done. And that's not really the case. Grieving does kind of have its own little arc. And when that extends past a certain, that was in the news recently. When that extends past a certain time, then it becomes kind of unhealthy. The problem is we don't have a really good term or name for the next part.
Well, we don't have a lot of good support for it either.
No. So when it's been over a year or 2 years, we don't have a great name or a great acceptance for the way that we carry our loved ones. Where I do think Eastern cultures tend to have a better cultural acceptance and terminology for the way that we carry our previously departed, loved ones with us.
Right.
We don't do a good job with that.
Fair. All right. So Anna's therapist warns her that antipsychotics and alcohol don't mix. Oh, true.
Beautifully. They mix beautifully.
True. FHE Rehab. the dangers of combining antipsychotics and alcohol.
Yeah, this is a problem.
It really is. And they can have some pretty dangerous side effects.
Including hallucinations.
As particularly for people taking quote unquote antipsychotic medications for severe anxiety and depression, which is what Anna was dealing with.
Yeah, including a certain type of fear.
Yeah, yes, and we're never told exactly what her antipsychotic is. It doesn't really matter. Just the generally probably not a good idea. But this article points out that some people may find the combined side effects of alcohol and antipsychotics pleasurable. Due to the ways in which alcohol and antipsychotics both affect neurotransmitter, alcohol use can minimize the effectiveness of antipsychotics, and that means that hallucinations or delusions can return, as well as states of mania. When combined with drunkenness, these effects can be exciting rather than alarming for some users. And I have a friend who did intake in ER for people who were... they used to call it bipolar. Now they call it something else.
Well, no, they call it bipolar now. They used to call it manic depressive.
They used to call it manic depressive. Now they call it bipolar. She would see the same people repeatedly in the ER because they loved being manic.
Oh,
she said it was better than any drug. They loved it.
Especially if you have a hypomania.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have a full-on manic episode where you're in like hallucinations that are scary, which it gets to.
Right.
And bipolar is kind of, it gets worse. So your manias get higher and higher until you're in a very scary place, and that's not good.
Right.
But yeah, they can be very enjoyable. In fact, many of the artists that we revere created art during their manias because they had like blasted beautiful images in their head and they just spilled them out into paper.
Right.
And we think that they, well, whatever. The point is that gets worse. But hypomania, you might know somebody who is like, oh my God, I'm in a place I can get stuff done. And they clean their house from top to bottom. Yeah. And they get all, they mow all the lawn and they do all these things. And they're like, they love those moments because that's for like more like bipolar too.
So productive.
They're so productive.
Yeah.
That they love it. Who wouldn't love that?
Yeah.
I get that. I have empathy for that.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that.
Me too.
I love laziness. I really fight to be as productive as I am.
Sloth is definitely on the top of my...
I'm a cat.
You are a cat.
I like my naps in the sun. Yes, I like to play. I don't necessarily sit in boxes, but I do like boxes. I could, but I kind of don't. All right, let's move on.
Ombrophobia.
Oh, please talk about this.
Real, but enhanced for comedic effect.
Okay.
In this show.
All right.
It is ombrophobia or pluviophobia is the fear of rain.
Rain.
Yes.
That was interesting to me.
Yeah, common in younger children more so than adults. Because kids are afraid of the rainstorm and they'll come in and, want to sleep with you because they don't really understand that they're probably more than likely very safe in their house. Right. Yeah, which is fine. I've had kids in bed with me because of rainstorms.
I've had dogs in bed with me because of rainstorms.
Dogs. Yes. It has a lot of symptoms that can vary from person to person. Adults with this phobia might display heightened anxiety, which we saw in Anna. Continually monitor the weather forecasts, which she didn't do enough of for as severe as her condition was. She seemed to be caught hearing thunder too often.
Yeah, I think it's because it's really just an extension of our actual
issue. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They might tremble or shake or feel like running away or include thoughts about death or being incoherent. Children tend to outgrow it. Adults can do exposure therapy, counseling, hypnotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. All of those things can be effective for this. But it seems like that mostly the term is used for plants. And
what?
Ombrophobe is a plant that cannot withstand much rain. And that botanists tend to use this particular term way more often than a psychologist would.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So Neil's girlfriend, Lisa, the flight attendant.
Oh, yes.
Complained that the markers that Anna gave the daughter across the street, Emma, had a strong smell.
I mean, what in the world?
Unlikely.
They were high-end markers.
They were more than likely alcohol markers because that's what artists tend to use. And unlike solvent markers, alcohol markers don't have the stinky, noxious smell. In most cases, alcohol markers have a faint scent of rubbing alcohol, according to RileyStreet.com. And
which is why she was so suspicious.
Exactly. And that's why she imagined running her over, which was hilarious.
I love her little
It
imagination.
was so funny.
It was great.
And I think that's the kind of thing that people don't get as funny.
They must not have ever imagined something like that.
I guess not.
I've never done that either.
Shh.
You can't see my eyes on a podcast.
Eyes. All right. So Massacre Mike, based on a real person? No, he's a joke. CENG News had a whole article. Is Massacre Mike based on a true story?
Okay.
And no, he is not. He's there to mock the genre suspense thriller.
I felt that.
He represents the absurdity of some of the characters' decisions, which I'm like take your daughter to work day at a prison with murderers
and leaving her in there.
Yes. The utter ridiculousness of scenes like this is where the show's humor is rooted.
Yeah, it's
and I'm
true.
like,
true.
There you go.
True. He did. He looked like a meld of every Criminal Minds murderer you've ever seen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So the take your child to work day, it is a TV trope, but it is also based in reality.
I kind of remember this, but I never went to work with my dad.
Me either. And by the time it became a thing, neither one of my parents were really, my dad wasn't working anymore because he retired super, super young, which my husband is extremely jealous of. And my mom worked at the school where I went to school. Please. So go to work with my mom was like, Every day. Yeah. So Forbes.com has had an article about all of it. So the fourth Thursday of April is take our sons and daughters to work day. Our sons and daughters to work day.
So our children.
Yes. Which is really what it ought to be now. Yeah. But that they changed it to that 10 years after they started it. So they started it in 1993. Gloria Steinem,
which was take your daughter to work
take our daughters to work day, which was created in response to the research that found girls that lacked confidence, and that there was a higher instance in the early 90s of girls dropping out of school around 8th grade because they just didn't think they could, and so they encouraged people to take their daughters to work so they could see working women and know that they too could have this kind of position if it was something that they desired. And then they changed it about 10 years later to take our sons and daughters to work day. And I would assume that if it has not already, it will be changed to take our children to work day. But it is the fourth Thursday of April.
Okay. So it's coming up.
Yeah.
People. It's coming up.
So there was a quote on Elizabeth's headstone. So Elizabeth was the daughter that was murdered by Massacre Mike, Anna's beloved child. And it's a real quote from a real book. The quote is, "If love could have saved you, you would have lived forever." And it's in a book by David Ellsworth called The Serenity of Selfism.
I have not read that, but I've heard that quote 1,000 times.
I had never heard it before.
Well, when you do a lot of funerals as a you learn. By
That's
the way,
fair.
if in case you're a new listener, I'm a minister.
Yes.
So like I've done a lot of funerals. Not as in like I've been the main like minister, but usually it's music. I do the music, but this is on
Jackie sings beautifully.
a lot of the things. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
you
you.
sing like an angel.
Why? Thank you so much.
Let's see. My family has compared you to Joss Stone
I
on
love
more
Joss
than
Stone.
one occasion. So
And
I know that
she's amazing. So I
she
kinda love
is,
her.
and yeah,
Thank
and
you, thank you,
yes,
thank you.
I know that you would appreciate that.
I
So.
appreciate that. I never sound like that at a funeral, though.
Oh well, no.
It's always very classical.
Yeah, yes. So the books in the show
Yeah.
completely fictional.
Okay.
Every last
Okay.
one of them. But the
Okay.
Dip had a very fun article about how the set designers have a good visual gag. The books with silly titles are scattered throughout the series like absurdist Easter eggs. And they caught some that I did not.
Okay.
So there's The Woman Across the Lake, which is the novel that she's reading and that the detectives insinuate that she may have gotten some of her delusions from. The book isn't real, but the premise is so similar to the plot of thriller favorite Riley Sager's upcoming book, The House Across the Lake. You may experience deja vu when it hits bookstores later this year.
Oh, early.
Sweet.
Dang.
And then the camera doesn't stay on Anna's thriller collection very long.
No.
But what you can notice about all of the books on that shelf is that they have woman or girl in the title.
Okay.
So
Yeah. All right. Okay.
So some of the ones that you see are the woman in the brig, the girl in the resort, the woman on the sofa.
Oh my God. I didn't see that.
No, but it's like such a good visual gag. And then there's she's an artist. Anna is, and she's got books in her attic. Anyone can be an artist, or you too can be an artist, or you can also be an artist, or anyone can be an artist. There's all of these great things, which the author found the floral paintings that she did bland, which I thought they were lovely.
They're lovely.
I thought they were very pretty.
They're
and
lovely.
very commercial sorts of.
Which there is a complete place
Right,
for.
right. Absolutely. There's a place for it, and they're commercial, but to own the original one, I can see how it'd be very like desired and whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, she does great because her house is huge and gorgeous. All right. So, psychology break. So Anna tells us right from the start that she has an overactive imagination.
She does.
She does. And there's a technical term for this, a fantasy prone personality.
That would be my son.
Oh yeah, the big one?
Yeah, the big one.
Yeah.
The big one.
Yes. So that might be the technical term for an overactive imagination. It was first identified in 1981 and supposedly affects about 4% of the population, to the point where it might distract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I imagine that's around the first time that Stephen King wrote a book.
Oh, there you go. And there's two types. There's type 1, where people will confuse their fantasies with reality. And there's type 2, which is probably the most common, where people can distinguish between their reality and their fantasy. Though it may seem very real to them, they can tell that it's a fantasy.
And maybe focus.
Yep. And they kind of really blamed it on nurture rather than nature. Which I'm not real sure about. People with fantasy prone personalities are more likely to have had parents or close family members that joined the child in believing that their toys are living creatures, which I'm like, did I just teach my kids that because, they had their special toys and we very much treated them like they were real because the children also did that, but they don't still think that they're real.
I don't think so. Obviously, I'm very biased in speaking about this because when you say that, I feel like I have a son who is very much that way.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, he's the child of two creatives.
Yeah.
And I would say that like
still think as a teenager, he doesn't still think that they're
but
alive.
it's absolutely focused into his creative art. Right? It definitely drove his creativity.
Right.
And I make a joke, but Stephen King is actually somebody I think of, like, definitely had trouble distinguishing, but
reality.
also did and was able to put it on paper. And, is a artist of our lifetime, like an absolute gem. But, and I love Stephen King, so obviously I'm biased with that as well. But I don't think that that's very debatable that he's a author of our time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I don't know that it's nurture because, obviously nurture plays a role, has to, because whether or not we distinguish that they're having these issues and then extinguish them or cultivate them, but they have to come from, they have to have had the thought to begin with. And yes, most children do, but most parents also do that.
Right.
Most parents also play along with that.
Yeah, with the idea that your favorite toy is really alive, because it's really a way for kids to talk about how they feel by giving it to their toy.
Yeah.
And you can really get insight into what they're really feeling about a situation.
Yeah, they're learning how to identify and name
in a very
feelings.
safe way. And again, people can have this FPP, the fantasy prone personality, because they had exposure to abuse or they had severe loneliness and isolation as children. But those are like really abuse situations.
That's a different situation.
And that's a different situation than pretending that your favorite toy has feelings about broccoli for dinner.
Right. Asking for a friend. Hello, social media. We're very familiar with this hashtag.
Yep. So it can have health implications for adults, though. And one example that they gave was false pregnancy, where women will think that they're pregnant and then they will have the symptoms related to pregnancy when they are in fact not pregnant at all. Yeah.
Mary from, I would say the Tudor reign.
Oh, yeah.
Mary was thought to have had, Bloody Mary, if you will, was thought to have had a false pregnancy her first time around.
Oh,
because
that's interesting because she was the Virgin Queen.
No. That was Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, that was her sister.
Mistake.
Yeah. Bloody Mary was her older sister who was like ignored and cast aside by Henry VIII because he was crazy.
Yeah. Legitimately. Yes.
Crazy.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So there are ups and downs to FPP. There's a Better Than Surviving blog where she talks about having an overactive imagination.
Okay.
And how she has, she said sometimes it can be a really good way of making herself feel better about a bad situation. So she, quote unquote, lost some of her eyelashes because she has the disorder where she plucks her hair. And so she
trichotillomania.
Yes, exactly. And she convinced herself with her overactive imagination that through Darwin's theory of evolution, she didn't really need eyelashes.
Oh, bless her. She does.
Yeah, she does.
Eyelashes matter.
Yeah, they do.
And I can say that as someone who actually has trichotillomania.
Yeah.
If you don't know, listener, welcome. Hi, this is all about Jackie. I have trichotillomania. Eyelashes are helpful.
They literally are.
They're not just pretty. They do stuff.
Yeah.
I was about to say a bad word and I saw it. Wait.
Yes, we're a family friendly,
Yeah.
generally. We
Wait,
don't
I'm
say
a
the bad
minister,
words.
so we don't say that.
That's right.
They do stuff.
Yeah, they do. They were protective and helpful for your eyes, and you want to have them.
Yeah.
Or have access to fake ones if you need them.
I'm telling you, you gave me this. I was all about the magnetics, okay? The magnetic eyeliner. And you gave me the Kiss brand felt.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Life changing. I am all about all of the eyelashes now. All of the fakes.
Because you don't have to have the magnetic ones, and if you run out of the magnetic eyeliner, you can still use your eyelashes. It's a you put it on, and it's sticky, and it looks like eyeliner, but it's the glue. But it goes on so much easier.
It's so easy. It's easier than even the magnetic ones. Now,
Yeah.
I will say the magnetic one, if I put it on right, I can wear that for a freaking week.
Yeah.
Hot tub, sleeping, whatever.
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, not as much, but
not
it's
as much with the glue, but it's faster and easier. And do you know what I bought this week?
What?
The clear version.
Ooh, smart.
They make a clear version.
I didn't know they made a clear version.
So if you buy the clear, like the naked lashes, which are on a clear band, then you add the...
So natural
I'm
looking.
getting used to it. I haven't gotten there quite yet, but I'm getting used to it.
Okay.
Yeah, these are... Look, hello.
They look amazing.
I'm here right now. They're a little big, so I have to trim them.
They
Just
look amazing.
right. But they're fun. They're naked lashes. I am all about this.
Excellent.
The clear. I am all about the fake because I have some eyelashes.
Yeah.
After years of trichotillomania, I'm at a good place, but my eyelashes are damaged.
Right.
So they're sparse and they're thin and they don't work hard.
Yeah.
So they don't keep stuff out of my eyes.
Like they should. Yes.
Nor do they show up and look pretty. So like, I love them to death, but they're like, I was going to make 1,000 different comparisons and I felt bad.
No, it's fine.
So I'm not going to do that. I love them, but they don't do much.
That's fine. That's fine.
I was going to say like an old chihuahua. And then I realized how mean that was.
I was wondering what you were going to, I'm like, I'm not even going to say mine. Because none of them are kind.
That wasn't kind. I love little doggies. I do. I love all the doggies.
But anybody who owns an old chihuahua knows exactly what you're talking about.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anna had opinions about how many selfies Lisa posted on her social media. She did. And she said, love yourself much. And actually, the research would suggest that it's more about not loving yourself and seeking a way to boost self-esteem. mastersinpsychologyguide.com basically says this very thing, that it quickly becomes clear that one thing many people are looking for via their selfies is a boost to their self-esteem. So,
True.
Now Lisa may have had, you'll learn later, may have had ulterior motives about what was going on.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Anna also mentions that her past felt very present, like she was having a really hard time moving on to the next thing, which is, of course, something that is very pushed upon her in Western culture. But if you're feeling that way, there's a whole book that you can read about on Goodreads by David Richo, When the Past is Present, Healing the Emotional Wounds That Sabotage Our Relationships. We all have a tendency to transfer potent feelings, needs, expectations, and beliefs from childhood or from former relationships into the people on our daily lives, whether they are our intimate partners, friends, or acquaintances. When the past is present, helps us become more aware of the ways that we slip into the past so that we can identify our emotional baggage and take steps to unpack it and put it where it belongs. Which I'm like, oh, there you go. And that's the thing is, you got to unpack it. That's why a therapist is so helpful in a lot of things. You want to, Jackie's nodding emphatically about, unpacking the things. It's a proverbial suitcase that you have to unpack and put things away.
Yeah, and I have to stick up for a minute because I have only watched episode 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. But so I don't know if we encounter the X at all.
Okay.
And so I'm going to speak from somebody who hasn't watched the rest of the show.
Okay.
Okay. But what I will say is that some of our moving on, you know, this idea that like marriages don't survive the loss of a child often because, or a young child, I should say, because of things. And there's always one, seems like there's always one that's like moved on, and that's the ex that leaves. Right.
Yeah.
And then there's the one that's stuck.
Right.
The truth is they're no different. The one that's moved on, have they really processed their grief, or are they just seeking their own fantasy world?
That's
They
fair.
are they not dealing with things? Because I feel like if they were grounded in reality and really helpful, their heart would be far more wrapped, and they can give all the excuses they want. I did all I could do. I don't know. I have thoughts about that. I did all I could do.
I'll be interested to see where you land on that, Peter.
I do have some bias about for better or worse, maybe.
Okay. Sure.
I do. And maybe that's a value system.
Right.
I have seen it modeled
Okay.
on the long term.
Right.
So come at me.
Yeah.
Come at me, bro, because I can show you people who actually made it
Right.
long term.
Right.
I also think that like leaving the situation is such a great way of like escaping it. Sure, now you don't have to deal with it anymore. Good job for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to look at any reminders. You don't have to
Right.
see anything that reminds you of it. You don't have to talk to people for which you have a commonality with. Like, I don't know. Are we really grieving or are we escaping? It's easy to say that you've moved on when you literally moved away from the situation.
Right.
I don't know. So I have thoughts about it, but I will say that, like, I don't know, as far as that's concerned,
Right.
I have opinions,
Okay.
but I haven't watched the rest of the show.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, you'll be interested to see my thoughts at the end.
I
All right,
will.
so next episode, right?
Yeah, sure.
Next episode.
Sure. We'll try and talk about
Because
that
I
a
will
little
have
bit.
finished it by then.
Yeah.
Trust me.
For sure.
So then we can talk about it.
Yeah. Carol, the neighbor,
Yeah.
very unkindly gossips about Anna in the store and says that she has a victim mentality,
Ooh, I know.
which really didn't sit well with me. And then I did a little research on Healthline, and I'm like, she's maybe
maybe
not
so.
entirely wrong.
Not entirely.
So victim mentality rests on 3 key beliefs. Bad things happen and will keep happening. Other people's or circumstances are to blame, which I don't know that that's really Anna's thing. Or any efforts to create change will fail, and so there's no point in trying. What does it look like? Placing blame, making excuses, not taking responsibility, reacting to hurdles in life with "it's not my fault." I don't know that, and you'll see as you get further into the show, that's maybe not so much. She's carrying a lot of guilt and a lot of personal responsibility for what happened. People don't tend to just adopt a victim mentality because they can.
No.
It comes from past trauma, and there's a lot of different situations, but past trauma is the one that really applies here. Is very traumatic situation. Her daughter was eaten by a serial killer. Okay.
That's not normal.
That's not normal. For the most part, it would be past trauma. But how should you respond? Well, not like Carol did.
Well, not.
Because really you want to let empathy be your guide to help these people and see that maybe some things are results of their choices, or even if bad things happen, maybe you can deal with them in a way that's more effective.
This is the most hurtful and controversial saying ever. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Oh,
We all
it's
hate that.
true, but
That
it hurts.
It hurts because you know why? Because we all have a victim mentality. All of us, every single one of us.
Yeah.
You know why? Because not everything is in our control. We
Right.
are all victims to some degree. And that's why empathy has to be our guide.
Right.
Because the things that we blame other people for being victims in are just different than the things we blame ourselves for being victims in. Now, I understand that there are some things that are outside of typical, that go on a more extreme version of victim mentality. And I think the problem is that it's got kind of applied
Okay.
further than it ought to.
Okay.
Right? Like we all are victims to a certain degree, but the problem is that victim mentality, that's not the same thing. Like, it's not the same thing to know that have a victim mentality as knowing we're actually a victim of circumstances outside of our control.
Right. I mean, and that's where the difference lies. Is
Right.
that do you have a victim mentality, or are you legitimately a victim of something?
Right. And so, like, if you have a victim mentality, nothing is ever your fault.
Right.
And nothing ever is something you can learn from. And usually what it really means is you're either with me or against me. The world is against me. Or that doesn't apply to somebody whose children was killed.
Right. Exactly.
Or have a deceased spouse for whatever reason. It was sad or tragic or whatever.
Right.
Like, I understand the idea that we have, but that's a part of that culture of get on, move on with it. The truth is, if our society was more accepting of it, probably people would move on a lot sooner.
Right. That's super fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all I have a victim mentality all the time. I do.
Yeah, but you don't shirk responsibility.
No, and I try.
And that
Some days are better than others. But I will say that's the whole point. Is reminding myself it may not be my fault.
right.
It is my responsibility, which makes me so angry sometimes.
It's fair.
But it is the long and short of it.
Right.
But I think I feel comfort in finding in knowing.
Right.
It's not my fault.
Right.
Okay. All right. I didn't do anything. But it is my responsibility, which means I'm empowered.
There you go.
I'm empowered to do something about it.
Okay.
Which means something that was an attack on me, I can go at. I don't know. There's a little piece of me that's like, yeah.
All of the sources that we use to inform our discussion here on Killer Fun Podcast can be found on our social media. Join us on Facebook at Killer Fun Podcast, exploring the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can find us on Twitter at Killer Fun Pod, or you can send us an email at killerfunpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to share a link to whatever information you're looking for. We love to hear from you. You might learn a little something too. So real life. So I'm kind of prone to burning myself.
Oh,
Just like Anna. Oh yeah. I'm fairly clumsy. I'm just gonna say it like I guess I have been maybe slightly less clumsy.
I think you've covered this up.
I hurt myself on a regular basis
I feel
in
like
ways
more than me. I don't know.
I burn myself a lot. Like my parents used to tease me that they needed to get me opera length of gloves because I would burn myself on my arms so often taking something out of the oven.
You know, it is you that recommended the last burn gel that I have.
Exactly.
Is your foot currently bruised from stumping it?
No. Only
Mine
because
is,
I'm
but
older
please.
than you.
Oh, no. That's because I live in a tiny house.
You do live in a tiny house.
I'm just kidding.
But
Okay,
if you
I
burn
can see
yourself on
that.
a chicken casserole recipe that I'm definitely going to post
She
on
always
social
forgets.
media.
She
That's
keeps
right.
saying, how do I forget that?
That's right. So if you do burn yourself, I'm going to post this article
Okay.
about some things that you can do. So what you shouldn't do is put ice on it.
No.
What you should,
No.
it can damage the tissue further.
Bad.
What you should do is put it in cool water. If it's a 1st degree burn, for 5 minutes. If it's a 2nd degree burn, for 10 minutes. Because I didn't know this, it'll continue to burn for like up to 24 hours. It'll continue to get worse. So you want to put it in water right away, because that helps limit the progression.
The less you feel it, the worse it is.
It really is.
Also.
And don't ever put butter on it. This is an old wives' tale. It actually can trap the heat in and introduce bacteria that you do not want in a burn.
But you have a great burn shop.
I do.
Which I've used.
It's just called burn gel.
It is called burn gel.
The best.
It's fantastic.
It's the best. It like cools it and soothes it and helps pull the pain away. It's the best.
It's great.
It's the best.
It's great for like normal burns.
Yeah.
For worse burns, call help.
Yeah. Yes. For 1st or 2nd degree burns, it's fine. For burns that
Bigger
more
than
than
that.
blister. Yeah.
Go seek help.
Please go to the ER. Yeah. So Anna says that she's sure that monsters exist, despite the fact that we reassure children that there are no monsters under their bed. So I thought I would talk about some of the monsters that can't be technically disputed.
Ooh. Interesting.
They're really AMC.com had a whole article on their blog that film and literature today, monster stories are a physical manifestation of our societal worries, which is totally true. But then they point out some monsters that have several sightings and can't be fully explained or disputed.
Ooh. Okay.
So, for example, the Wendigo.
What's that?
So the Wendigo is a creature from the First Nations Algonquin tribes, and they stalk the cold northern forests of the United States and Canada. They describe the creature as giant and looming, but sometimes it's also human-sized, but with the real gaunt features and yellow eyes and big claws and fangs and stuff. And that the legend says that humans who've resorted to cannibalism will become a Wendigo.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And there is an actual Wendigo psychosis, which is when people have delusions or homicidal or suicidal thoughts, a lot of antisocial behavior, and they have a compulsion to eat human flesh. It might be described as a Wendigo psychosis.
Interesting. Okay.
There's also the Mothman.
The Mothman prophecies.
The Mothman, which is West Virginia specifically, and it was first reported in 1966. And there was two couples who'd gone on a double date, and that they claimed that their car was chased by this large winged humanoid creature with glowing eyes. And it's been seen several times since, though experts are quick to say that the Mothman is probably a sandhill crane, which has a really large wingspan, 7 or 8 feet, or a very large barn owl whose eyes reflected
But did it predict the falling of the bridge in the movie?
I mean, no.
It's a good movie, though.
Yeah.
What was the name of the movie? I don't remember.
I think it was the Mothman Prophecy.
Was it a Mothman prophecy? It was a good movie.
Yeah.
Worth.
Then there's the Beast of Bodmin Moor, which is persistent in British folklore.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was seen often in the late 70s, and it was a cat-like creature. And it often, but it was large, and it often accompanied.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Sightings interestingly, seem to accompany mutilated animals, livestock in the Cornwall area. But there hasn't been any conclusive evidence about it. And that it's tending to fall off because scientists are adamant that there isn't the sort of climate or food sources or things that would support a large cat in that particular area of the world.
Makes sense. Okay.
Then there's the Chupacabra.
Ooh, San Antonio favorite.
That's right. Exactly. It's a Spanish folklore creature. And this article claims that they were first reported in Puerto Rico in 1995, which I'm like, that is not true because I've been hearing about the Chupacabra since I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
I was about to say, this is just like a San Antonio
thing. It's been a while.
Come on.
But they've been reported throughout the Americas and Russia, India, and the Philippines. Yeah. And it's sometimes described as a lizard-like creature that's the size of a small bear with like spines on it. Most often when you hear about it or see a picture, it kind of looks like a hairless dog, which it's usually thought to be like a dog with mange.
You know where I'll tell you that you can always find a Chupacabra?
Where's that?
October at Six Flags.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I think I have pictures of us with a Chupacabra.
I think we do.
I'm going to have to look for that.
It's so great, though.
It's super
so
fun.
Great. Yeah. See, I told you, San Antonio favorite.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
The Chupacabra.
Yes. And then there's the Snallygaster.
What? I'm sorry. Come at me again with that.
It's from Maryland. That's the South Mountain region of Maryland, and it's a dragon-like creature.
A dragon in Maryland?
Wings, octopus tentacles, originally sighted by German immigrants in that area in the 1730s.
Do you know why I laughed? Because I was just thinking to myself, they have a lot of craft beer in Maryland.
That's so funny. That's super fair.
That's funny.
That reports were so persistent in the early 1900s that President Theodore Roosevelt was reportedly considered hunting it.
What?
Looking for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So
that's because media wasn't as pervasive as it is now.
Super fair. So Massacre Mike might be completely fictional, but there are some serial killers who have eaten their victims.
Yeah, for sure.
Ranker has a whole list of 20 killers who ate their victims. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to, of course, we know Jeffrey Dahmer.
Of course.
So some of the other ones that I hadn't read about before. Leonarda Cayenne Cooley. She was in Italy from 1939 to 1940, and she killed 3 women, and she turned her victims' bodies into soap and tea cakes, and she served them to her friends and ate them herself. And she said that she killed the women to protect her son during World War II.
I mean, the soap thing, that's a very Fight Club situation.
Very Fight Club.
Very Fight Club.
But the tea cakes served to her unwitting friends. That's a very help situation.
I mean, what is tea cake
that
needs
it makes
meat?
it taste so good?
What in a tea cake means meat? Are tea cakes...
Or
I don't
just
know.
fat.
I'm not that fancy. Are tea cakes savory?
I don't think so.
Sweet.
I think so. But you use the fat, whip it into the buttercream or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Albert Fish murdered and cannibalized children in the early 1900s. And it's believed that he had about 100 victims. They could only conclusively prove 3 of them. And he was electrocuted in Sing Sing prison in January of 1936. And then
Oh, you're laughing.
It's not funny. It's darkly funny. It's so darkly funny. So Peter Bryan, he committed 3 murders in England between 1993 and 2004. And they sent him to a secure psychiatric hospital after he was convicted of murder because they found him to be criminally insane.
Okay.
But he got released in 2004. As soon as he was released, he went and killed a man. And when they found him, he was frying the guy's brain in a pan.
Oh my God.
And then they sent him back to a hospital, Broadmoor Hospital, and he killed another person.
No.
It seems bad. Like,
did we not learn? Did
no,
we not learn?
We didn't learn.
He was frying somebody's brains. That reminds me of the drugs commercial. This is your brain.
This is your brain on drugs.
There you go. That's the one.
That's the one. So we're going to end on a light note.
Ooh.
Anna made a comment, who takes a selfie when they're laughing? That's so obviously fake.
Everybody.
Well, sweetiehigh.com has suggestions of what you might caption your obviously fake Instagram photos because you're laughing in the middle of them. They called them plandids or planned candids.
Oh, Lord. That's
which they're
painful.
like, that's fine, whatever. Everybody does it. It's whatever. They had some quotes. There's power in looking silly and not caring that you do by Amy Poehler. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, just accept that you look ridiculous because you're laughing in your selfie. Laughter is good for you by Jim Butcher. I'm hopeless and awkward and desperate for love.
Yes.
Chandler Bing and Friends.
Thank you. Thank you.
For when the laughter is fake, but the joy is not, a loud smile is often a fake laugh by Sahil Prem, which I'm like, okay. Laughter is the shortest distance between two people.
Okay.
You don't like that one by Victor Forge?
I guess not. I didn't hit me well.
Oh, okay. I try not to laugh at my own jokes, but we all know I'm hilarious. That's fair.
That's funny.
And then A Day Without Laughter is a Day Wasted by Charlie Chaplin.
True.
There you go.
You know, I have learned something is if in your photos you are laughing, you will look back on there with more kindness.
Oh, that's fair.
It's true.
Even if it's fake. Yeah, well, the selfie, laughing photos that somebody else took you is one thing. Yeah. Laughing selfies is another thing.
It's the happy look. It's the excited, like, look. Look that we, looking back on our photos, we will be more kind of.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, look, that was the emotion I felt. And that was fun.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? Instead of the whatever beauty standard we're trying to look for.
Right.
If we have that, like,
that's fair. Yeah.
Look, this is great. This is fun.
Your inner
look
beauty.
where I am.
It's your inner beauty coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if it's a selfie, but it's a selfie somewhere.
Right.
Like, aha, you know, that's fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
And we're reminded that's good.
That's right.
And
when we see somebody else looking that way, we're like, oh, maybe I can feel that way too.
Yeah, it's true.
That's fair.
It's true.
So next time we're going to talk about the adaptation of the Dateline podcast, The Thing About Pam, where Pam ineptly covers up the murder of her friend.
Yes.
And get somebody else sent to jail. It's a whole thing. There's a whole podcast on it that was delightful and kind of funny in its darkness. The thing about Pam, I can hear the guy's voice in my head because I listened to the whole thing.
Did you?
Do I remember squat about it? No. So it's all going to be new to me. But this new NPC show with Renee Zellweger.
I mean, really,
the first time she has done a television show like ever. I mean, she's always done movies and she's doing a television show. So
it's great.
I'm excited to check it out. So you should too. And thank you so much for listening to us. We know you make a choice that we don't just come on the radio and we really appreciate it. Tell a friend because it's more fun. We can listen with a friend. And until next time, be safe, be kind, and wash your hands.
Bum, bum, bum. Da, 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 da.